So today's question is, if you have an i7 7700K and a GTX 980, and you want to play Cyberpunk 2077 at either HDR 1080p or possibly up to 4K, is a RTX 3090 a good choice? Oh boy.
And that's just want to upgrade the GPU.
Yes. Now, first of all, I don't think that the RTX 3090 is a good value. Putting this issue aside, it has 24 gigs of VRAM, which is really nice, but for $1,500, it is more than double the price of a 3080, and it only has about 25% more performance than a 3080. Now, we haven't done benchmarks as of the recording of this, but that's based on the CUDA core count. It is just over 10,000 cores, which is pretty cool, but there's 8,700 cores on a 3080. So my advice is if you're buying right now, buy a 3080, not a 3090. But either way, I would not put a RTX 3080 or an RTX 3090 on an i7 7700K. 4 cores and 4 threads was awesome when you built that machine. If you built that machine in 2016 or maybe very early 2017, then you were buying the best, at least until the Ryzen 7s came out. But even then, in terms of frame rate and consistency, because Ryzen, when it first came out, did have some launch issues, RAM support, and IPC issues with the first generation of Ryzen, at the time, if you wanted the best gaming PC and the highest clock speeds and the greatest performance, absolutely. You spent $350. You got yourself a nice Z270 motherboard and you built yourself an i7 7700K, and that was the bee's knees. That was 4 years ago. It is now 2020. In fact, we're almost to 2021. 8-core chips have become normal and standard, and now we have 10, 12, and even 16-core consumer-level CPUs. Intel's at 10 at the moment, although they're coming out with a 16 here in just over a year or so. And Ryzen may be going to more cores than 16 here in the near future when they move to AM5.
Should he upgrade to a 9900K or completely get a whole new computer?
Well, you don't need a new... if the rest of his components are good, you don't need a new computer. And you can't put a 9900K on that board because it's a 200 series.
Oh. That's right, you need a 300 series board.
If you're going to buy a new 30 series to play Cyberpunk and you've got a premium machine, then an i9 10850K for $500 or a Ryzen 9 4900X when it launches in October, which as of the date of this recording, it hasn't launched yet, but it's coming very soon. So either the 10-core or the 12-core AMD or Intel chip is what I would go to. 4 cores and 8 threads is now budget. Intel sells a 4-core 8-thread chip called the i3-10100 for $120. AMD sells one, the Ryzen 3 3100, 4 cores, 8 threads, roughly 4 gigahertz for $99. Your chip may have been the bee's knees when you bought it, but it isn't today. It's an entry-level chip. For Cyberpunk and for games going forward, putting a next-generation 700, much less a $1,500 video card on what is now a $100 chip, that is not a good decision. Could you do it for a few months while you wait for the chips to cycle out? Could you do it, at launch? If you plan to buy the Ryzen 9 4900X when it launches in October, I mean, sure, of course you could. Absolutely. I mean, a month or two is not going to kill you, but you will be severely bottlenecked in many situations with new games on a 4-core 8-thread chip with that much graphics performance, especially if you're running at 144 frames per second.